Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and in today's video we're going to be trying to think of something to do with these broken He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Castle Grayskull dolls. Now I've got quite a box of sort of broken He-Man pieces, and every once in a while I have a look in it just to see if there's something that sort of catches my eye and something I can make use of. And I saw that I've got this sort of growing selection of Castle Grayskull dolls and thought, well, they look quite good, they look quite nice, but what can I do with them? They're all broken. I don't have Castle Grayskulls to go with them. I've got one Castle Grayskull, but I don't need 3 others. So what can I do with these doors? And then it occurred to me, they actually look quite nice. They're quite sort of a nice detailed things. They've got quite a nice lot of pattern to them. So what I want to do today is to turn them into display stands for He-Man figures. So let's get on with this project and see what we can do. So I picked out 3 dolls from the pile that I have. They're all in fairly sort of battered condition. Some are worse than others. This one's got a whole chunk missing here. It's got the hinge damaged on that side. This one here I think is just missing the little post that enables you to lift the door back up. This one has that post but is missing one of the hinges. So they just sort of look too good to just chuck away. They're broken, not a lot you can do with them as they are, but I think we could use these to make a sort of nice display area, even if it's just to sort of display He-Man in front of. So I'm going to take the most broken of the dolls, which is this one. This is the one that's got a big chunk missing, and my plan is to make a sort of base that comes out the front just using some 2mm styrene board or something to make a floor. I'm going to add some detail to it, maybe to add some bits to make it look like paving stones. We'll glue this door on, then the He-Man will be able to stand in front of it, and I think that will look pretty cool as a sort of display piece, but it's going to look a bit boring if it's all green. I know the original door is green on the playset, but when you see it in the cartoon it's all brown with sort of a silver metal work. So what I think we'll do is once we've made the base, we'll paint everything up and try and make it look like a really nice display stand that we can use to display this figure in front of. I don't really have an exact sort of plan as to what I'm going to do. I've just got a sort of rough idea in my mind. So yeah, let's just get on with this project and see what we can make. I think the first thing to do is make the base part, then we can try and stick that on. We'll do a bit of repairs because that is pretty unsightly, so maybe get some Miller put out and fill that in. I'm contemplating whether we fill that hole in as well. Maybe I can just push a bit of styrene or something in there. Doesn't matter if we don't, I guess. And then yeah, we'll give it a good sort of coat of paint and see if we can make something that looks nice. But rather than having broken doors in my sort of spares pot, let's make something out of them. The first thing I want to do is make a base. So I'm going to turn this thing into a sort of L shape. So we've got the door at the back and then we've got this bit at the front. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to attach those 2 pieces together. I think this plastic may work quite nicely with plastic rods, so I should just be able to sort of glue that down. If not, I might have to add some extra support up and sort of drill some holes in so we can stick this on, or yeah, fix it in some way. But what I want to do first is cut a piece of this styrene. This is 2mm thick styrene sheet. I'm going to cut a piece and sort of shape the edges of it, and then I'm going to use some thinner styrene. This is a 0.5mm thick styrene to cut out some paving stones, and I'll stick those on just to give this a little bit of detail. I don't want it to be flat like this, but I don't want it to be too raised, because if it's too raised then the figure will sort of not stand nice and flush. So just some sort of indications of paving stones that we can paint some more details on later. So yeah, let's get that cut and shaped, and then we'll see about attaching this. Hopefully that will glue straight on, but if it doesn't, yeah, I'm going to drill a few holes into this and then I'll put some pegs on there and we can sort of attach that on with a bit more glue. But yeah, I think I'm just going to sort of mess around and see what happens. Okay, that's my sort of rough, crazy paving base. So you can see that's 0.5mm styrene sort of cut into rough shapes, just using scissors. You don't even have to use a knife. With the 0.5mm stuff, you can easily cut it. And then I've stuck that on with a bit of plastic weld. By the time that's all painted up, it's going to look really quite nice. I'm only using offcuts of styrene, which is why the base is black. You can use whatever colour you like. I just happen to have 2mm black styrene left, so I've got sort of combinations here. Now I'm going to try and stick that in place there. I have a feeling plastic weld might work. If it doesn't, as I say, I'm going to have to do some sort of reinforcements, or I'll stick some posts and stuff on the bottom of this and then drill some holes. But plastic weld may work, so I'm just going to try that first because that was a nice, quick, easy option. And then we can go about mixing up some milliput to fill in all of these holes and damages to the door itself, because I want to sort of hide the holes on the front. I'm not too worried about the back because you won't be able to see that. I'm probably not even going to paint that. It's all going to be about the front for where the figure is being displayed. So let's try plastic weld, and we'll see what happens. If that doesn't work, then I will construct something else to attach this door to the base. Well, that worked better than I thought it would. That plastic weld has fused those two pieces very firmly together. That's a really nice strong bond, and you can see we've now got a display piece. It's actually looking a little bit like a stand. If I bring in He-Man, if we put him in front of that, you can see that's actually going to be quite a nice sort of little display area for him. I think that's going to work very well indeed. So I've got to mix myself up some milliput. This is the two-part modelling clay. Mix that up, and then I'm going to just sort of push a bit in around here just to try and fill that really sort of nasty broken area. You're not going to see most of this, but it'd just be nice to sort of finish that off. I'm also going to make a few little stones to go on these sort of cobblestones here. So just a few little raised pieces just to add a little bit of detail, so it's not just a flat surface. And I may sculpt a few bits just around the back, but fairly simple things because I don't want this base to detract from the figure. It's the figure I want to see, and I want this to be in the background, so I don't want to add too much detail. I was thinking I could add some bones and some skulls and things like that, but I think that's just going to get too complicated. I want this to be quite a simple display, so yeah, the simpler the better. Anyway, let's get this mixed up and we'll fill in these holes and start making some little bits to go around the edge. Okay, I think that's about all I want to do. I've not added a huge amount of detail to this base. As I say, I don't want it to be too sort of distracting, but just a little bit so it's not just a flat surface. I've got a little sort of couple of raised sections at the front, and I've put a couple of just a little balls of milliput there that will look a little bit like pebbles on top of this stone. But yeah, the overall effect I think is what I'm going for. At the moment it's very hard to tell because everything's sort of odd colours, but by the time this is painted up, that's going to look pretty nice. So I filled in this hole at the back just quite roughly, just so that when you see it from the side you can't see that there's a big chunk missing. And I've also pushed some milliput down at the front here because I don't want there to be a gap when I come to paint this. I don't want there to be a sort of dark line where the paint goes in, where there's a bit of a void. So I've just filled that all in. Now we're going to leave this for 24 hours, let it all set. Then I'll give it a coat of a plastic primer, a grey plastic primer, and then we can get painting it properly. But the overall effect so far I'm very happy with. A quick coat of primer and you can see I've now got something that is not looking too bad. I'm quite happy with how that looks. There's maybe a little bit too much sort of sharpness to these stones, but I will get rid of that as I paint it. And that's the next stage really. I've got my pot of paints here. I've got lots of different colours and I'm just going to sort of go for it really. Obviously I want the door to be brown. I need the sort of metal work to be a nice metallic colour, and then yeah, something on the floor, maybe some bits of green to look like moss and stuff like that around. But I'm just going to sort of go for it and see what happens. Okay, I think I am done with the paint application. I'm very happy with how this is looking. You see, it really does look like an old wooden door. I've gone fairly sort of minimal with what I've done as far as detailing goes. You can see it's sort of base brown for the wood. Then I've made up a nice metallic finish paint for the sort of hardware on the door. Done a little bit of detailing on the coat of arms there. The colours for that, I've sort of copied He-Man's colours. If I bring in He-Man, you can see it's sort of roughly the same sort of colours as that. Really, I could have gone for any sort of colouring, but as this is sort of for Castle Grayskull, I thought He-Man's colours would work sort of quite nicely, but it's fairly muted because really I don't want this to stand out too much. You know, this is going to be the background to a figure, but yeah, overall I'm very happy. And you can see the base as well. I put a few sort of washes on that just to make it look a little bit dirty and a little bit sort of, yeah, a little bit moss covered and that. So I'm now going to let all of this dry. These are all acrylic paint, so I'll just let them dry for a few hours, and I'm going to then hit this with a clear semi-gloss coat, some Mr. Hobby semi-gloss spray coat, just to sort of firm everything in and make sure that it's never going to chip or never going to damage, and that will be the final thing I do, and then we can try it out with some figures. But yeah, that is looking very nice. I'm really happy with how that's looking, and you can see here these are all the paints I've used. It's a sort of fairly mixed selection of colours just to get what I want. A few sort of basic colours like brown, so this is beastly brown. This is a game colour which I mix with a bit of black just to get the sort of door tones, and then we've got some other colours for yeah, well, that one there, that's the silver. That silver mixed with the black gave me a nice sort of dull metal effect, so that's what I use for that one. And yeah, just some other colours for sort of highlights, some reds and some yellows, and a bone colour for the little skull on the door. So really you can use whatever paints you have, and I just happened to choose those, and this is the result I got. And here you go, here is the finished door. In fact, I liked it so much, I have made a second one with a few slight modifications, as you can see. This first one, the base works really quite nicely, the fact that you can sit the figure on it, but I thought I'd try a smaller version, so I've not done quite as large a base. It just sticks out the back a little bit to give the door the support it needs. And I've done a slightly different paint job, as you can see. So this is sort of more Skeletor colours, and I put a little bit of a different detail here on the bottom. Rather than cutting out the shapes that I did with the styrene here, I've actually just sculpted this with some milliput, and I've also stuck a few stones and pebbles in that I found on my driveway just to give it a bit more sort of you know, rough looking sort of texture to it. So there you go, I've now got two of these doors and they are looking absolutely fantastic. So let's try them with some figures. I'll bring in He-Man first. He can stand in front of the He-Man door, so you can see that looks really very nice. I can bring in Skeletor as well, and he can stand in front of the Skeletor door. So I've got two very good looking displays here. I think they're going to work very nicely on my shelves. But I don't think we need to be limited to just He-Man figures. In fact, I'm going to bring in some Dungeons and Dragons figures. So we've got some advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's Warduke there, and I've got Strongheart here, and we can put him in front of that door. And again, it looks really nice with those figures. So this is the sort of display that I like making. It's something that I can use for multiple different toy lines, and I can certainly see a lot of uses for it. It's going to look really nice when it comes to displaying my figures and taking photographs of them as well. So let's remove those two, and we can try putting a version of Laser Light Skeletor there in front of that one, so you can got his hand and eyes lighting up. It just looks great. I think these work really nicely, and it's a fairly straightforward thing to do. In the end, I put a clear coat on top of these. I used a Mr. Hobby flat matte clear coat just to give it some sort of protection, so it's not going to chip and get damaged no matter what I do to it. But you can see it does look really very nice. I'm very happy with how these both turned out. So that's it for this video. What I've done is taken the remains of a couple of broken doors from Castle Grayskull and turned them into very nice display pieces. It's been a fair amount of work. It's taken me a couple of days to do these, obviously because we have to wait for paint to dry, we have to wait for milliput to dry. There's a lot of waiting for things to dry, but it's really been worth the effort. I'm incredibly pleased with how these have turned out. In fact, I may end up making another one, as I still have one more door that I've got in my box of broken doors, so maybe I'll do one final version so that I've got a few of these for displaying figures. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.